Hi folks, I'm doing a series of videos where I answer a core question in each video, and today I am going to answer one of these. How do I know when I know enough about WordPress to start freelancing? Um, I think you can start freelancing right away just as long as you're willing to try. A lot of times people who have WordPress sites will hire developers just to do stuff that's easy, like adding new content to a page or adding a new event to the homepage. You don't really need to be a developer to do those things. You really just need to take the time to do it. Maybe there's a little bit of a learning curve of how to get to the editor and stuff like that. But if you're already interested in being a WordPress freelancer, I mean, you're probably already at that point. Um, I would say before I really take myself seriously as a WordPress developer, and before I start calling myself that, though, I think there's two milestones that you should hit technically before you actually start a business. Um, and they're both about around just having kind of some fail safes in line for the customer for if things go sour. Number one, I think it's good to know how to make full backups of a site, how to download all of the files and the database and be able to restore it. I think a good exercise I'd recommend, because it's the way I learned best, is to make a backup of a website that's on one host and on one domain, my WordPressWebsite.com, and move it to a totally separate host with a totally separate domain, my new WordPressWebsite.com, because that will put you through the process of making a full backup, which you always want to do for a customer, because there's nothing worse than saying to a customer, hey, I'm hurting your business because I'm incompetent. Like you really want to have that in place. So, not just you're learning at the customer's expense, but you want to be able to um, not cause damage to their business. Uh, so then moving it to a new site teaches you kind of a different skill set where you have to learn how to do like search and replaces, which you can do with Notepad++. It's a great text editor to do a search and replace on an entire directory of files, and you would just put in the old URL and the new URL, do a search and replace, and there you go, and then uploading those files into the new host. Even after you do that, though, there's a little bit of learning over on this side, because sometimes you have to mess around with the htaccess file so you know which directory the new website's in, and sometimes you have to mess with the wp-config file so it's connecting to the right database. But that's really it. I would really recommend, if you want to be a WordPress freelancer, putting yourself through that exercise, even if it's just your own site, because it'll teach you more than any other class. And honestly, the peace of mind that that knowledge will provide is worth the evening or two it takes to actually do that exercise. Um, the other thing I would say is when you do get in over your head, I don't say if, when it happens to everybody, you want to have somebody that you can hire essentially to fulfill the demand for the customer for you. Either a freelancer or have a buddy that knows more than you do. So you don't want to just say to the customer, sorry, I can't do it. You you might not get paid for it if you hire someone else. You might get paid like slim margins, but at least you'll have a history of delivering something to the customer successfully. And that's really all the customer cares about. They don't care about how you really do it, as long as it's done right. Hiring a freelancer is an intimidating thing, and I don't know. I think I hired one pretty early on when I started out, and had I not needed to, let me tell you the story. I got hired by this guy to build a JavaScript form for $800. It was my first contract, and that's a lot of money to me. And he said, "Yeah, it needs to be like 12 pages or something." So um, it ended up being closer to 20 pages. I wasn't able to really push back on my first customer as well as I should have. I was kind of being taken for a ride, but I didn't know any better. And then he wanted some functionality, like connecting the form to a database and making it so if you answered this way on page 1, it would change the questions on page 20. And some of these things that I still wanted to deliver the job because that was the only thing remaining. And we had actually talked a little bit about that from the beginning, but I was over my head. I didn't know how to do it, and I had a deadline, and it was coming up, and I was getting real nervous. So I, in my panic, went to freelancer.com and I posted the job. I wrote up a little essay exactly what I needed done, and I posted it. And some guy got back to me. I got a list of bids. They were all really cheap, surprisingly cheap, like $200 a piece, and I was charging this guy 800. And I hired somebody, and I gave him the credentials. He did a great job. I changed the credentials back, so no security issue. He did it in a night, and I gave it back to the guy, and he was thrilled. And so I realized then I've been working on this for like weeks, and this guy I just hired, and in one night did the job for $200, and I was charging the customer 800. Like, I'm an idiot. I should have just hired that job right out and collected $600. Like, what am I doing? I don't need to have to learn how to code everything myself. I just need to know what needs to get done. And so I think that kind of opened my eyes. Like, not only did it make me more confident when I'm talking to a customer, when they say, "Can you do this?" As long as I'm relatively comfortable at it, then yeah, I can do it because I know I have a backup plan, and because I can make backups of websites, I know that while I'm working on it, the worst thing that could happen is I just have to restore a backup. So those two milestones, being able to hire a freelancer and being able to migrate a site from one host to another, get those two down, and I would feel very comfortable calling myself a WordPress freelancer, regardless of how good your coding is. All right, thanks.